That's right guys, today's the big day and I'm going to try to make it as easy as possible for you to go into the new build with all the information you need. So wow, where do I even begin? Well, first of all, if you didn't know, the test server for vaulting is releasing today. Surprise! Here's a couple of details you need to know about that release. Number one, and most obvious, this is not the official release. This is strictly the first phase test server for the 1.0 build, supposedly releasing at the end of the year. I have to use terms like supposedly because while they keep promising that, anything can happen and I want to manage your expectations. So all that being said, you need to download and use the test server to experience vaulting. The release time is in fact 6 p.m. PST, that's Pacific time, today the 13th of November, and you can use the power of the internet to convert 6 p.m. PST into your own time zone. Now, if you see the patch notes, there are 2 dates or times under each time zone they list. Confusing at first, but that is the estimated start and end time. So yes, it is confirmed we will have just 24 hours to test or play PUBG with vaulting. Originally, we thought we'd get somewhere around 3 days, but they have not fixed the stability issue that caused the delay in the first place. For that reason, we will be getting just 1 day to test and provide feedback so that they can move on with the development. Next, we see that the test server will only have the solo mode available, no duo, no squads. And the 2 server regions will be North America and Asia. Of course, without region lock, you can play on either no matter where you are. Also, both first person and third person will be available, which is awesome because I think many of us were wondering what vaulting would look like in first person. Is it going to be super jarring or what? I really enjoy playing first person, but I usually make all my videos in third person because, in my opinion, it looks more refined or is more pleasing and less dizzying to watch. Just my opinion though, I'll probably start doing more of both. Okay, so there are 2 giant changes in this build. Well, they say 2, but there's actually 3. So of course, vaulting and climbing. This has already been talked about many times and you can go through my previous videos on that or read the previous developer blogs. But to sum up what it is, vaulting is the action of passing over an obstacle or through a window so that you end up on the other side. Thin objects like fences and walls you'll be able to glide right over, gun in hand. Anything higher than your chest will require holstering your weapon to scale. If you run into a vault, you will carry your momentum through it and speed the process up. If you vault from standing still, it will consequently take more time. Now, climbing refers to the action where instead of ending up on the other side of an obstacle, you end up on top of it. So anything thick enough for you to stand on top of will be climbable up to 2.3 meters, which should be somewhere around the height of shipping containers. It is going to be possible to run and use that momentum to slide over an otherwise climbable object, but that's kind of the gist of what we know. By default, the key for vaulting will be bound to space, the same key as jump, but you will be able to split up those key bindings manually. Alright, now onto the major change that up until this point we knew very little about, the ballistics overhaul. Which, leave it to Brendan Green to make something complex even more intricate in the name of realism. Okay, so first important thing to point out, they use the wording, the first iteration is finalized. I almost guarantee that what we experience will not be the final product, and for this reason, I've been holding off and probably will hold off doing any real technical examinations and guides for weapons, at least until we get closer to the 1.0 launch. That being said, I think some of these changes are awesome and will be here to stay. One of the big changes to the actual bullet or ballistic mechanics is the addition of bullet drag. So this means in addition to gravity affecting the trajectory, there will now be air resistance, which in effect slightly changes everything. Bullets will no longer travel as far, their velocity will no longer be constant, it will reduce over time or over the course of the bullet flight path, and of course, consequently, there will be even more bullet drop the longer your shot. So basically, instead of velocity and drop remaining constant, your bullet velocity will decrease and your bullet drop will increase at long range. Now, the even crazier part is that this will also affect the damage to players. There are numerous damage multipliers in play now, and you will be dealing with less damage over very long ranges. Now, for everyone freaking out, they say you will barely notice a difference at close to mid-range engagements. Once you start getting past 300 meters, the change will be more noticeable. Of course, with any change, you will have haters, lovers, open-minders, and having never played it, we can only speculate what these these changes might be like. That being said, I'm really liking the sound of these changes because this will require people to actually sneak up and get in intense closer firefights. No more spraying 50 shots at someone 800 meters away in a field and having a few random lucky bullets kill them. At least that's what I like to think this change will help with. However, there are quite a few people saying don't fix what isn't broken, they should be focused on other stuff, and I can see that angle as well. Second thing, they said they've tweaked the accuracy of weapons basing the new numbers on their in real life counterparts. Some weapons will experience a slight accuracy nerf and others will become more accurate. Now I already have a few in-game weapons in mind that are nothing like the real life version, and I'm really interested to test them out and report back to you on any change in accuracy. Now the third change listed is concerning scopes and is probably the coolest. Everything else is welcomed but probably somewhat unnoticeable or fairly minor. Number 1, with the trajectory change, they have altered zeroing to be more realistic, and as a result, each weapon will have a unique set of zeroing ranges while using iron sights. Number 2, red dot and holographic sights will now allow for zeroing in on shorter ranges. So before, if you were super close to your target, the bullets would actually hit below the red dot. This is because in PUBG, the bullets actually come out of the barrel of your gun and not your face or your scope crosshair. Number 3, hallelujah, you will be able to adjust the reticle intensity on the red dot or holographic sight to adjust for different lighting conditions. The default binding for this action will be the mouse scroll wheel. I have a feeling everyone will be prioritizing the red dot now. Before, I knew some people that use the holo sight simply because the reticle is slightly easier to see in brighter conditions. Thank you Bluehole for thinking of this and making it happen. Number 4, there are some changes to the chevron zeroing with the 4x scope, but none of that will be implemented in this build, so I'm skipping it for now. Number 5, bigger scopes will have varying zoom levels, and this will likewise be adjusted using the mouse scroll wheel. Pretty cool. Finally, they write that they introduced changes to the hit areas of the character. Go figure, right after I make a video about hitboxes. So the neck will now be protected by the helmet. Shooting hands and feet is less effective, i.e. probably deals less damage than it did before. And finally, on top of the regular bonuses and penalties, damage will also be modified by weapon class. Again, we can't know for sure what these changes are, but for instance, I read that as perhaps instead of every gun doing 2.5 times damage on a headshot, maybe say shotguns will have a smaller damage multiplier for headshots over something like a sniper rifle, but we'll have to wait and see. Oh, also, instead of any hit to a limb doing 50% damage, the damage will vary and increase the closer to the chest it gets. Kind of a cool and interesting change there. Here's a list of the before and afters you can pause and look at. We pretty much went over all of these except for the second one, which reads, before, most of the weapons are very accurate aside from SMGs, and after, all the weapons are reasonably accurate up to medium range or 300 meters. We'll have to find out exactly what this means for us. One other thing they fixed is the excessive aim punch while leaning in ADS mode. So yay, no longer getting punished for using proper technique. Okay, now for the third and very important change, I think. Optimization tweaks. They listed that they optimized terrain data to reduce memory usage. Hopefully we will start seeing that memory leak situation improved. Also, reduce the lag issue when terrain is loading, and reduce the lag issue when multiple players are in sight. No more using wild FPS drops to tell if other people are nearby. And finally, optimize server performance by adjusting the network throughput. Remember, they haven't fixed the stability issue of this build, so hard crashing is to be expected this time around. Give them a little break though, they've had a tough month dealing with the massive cheater influx. They also adjusted the vehicle sounds to be a bit more realistic and altered the vehicle handling a little bit, but they said this is an early stage of balancing and will require more feedback. Under UI fixes, they wrote that they improved the backpack capacity UI in the inventory screen, which in my opinion is great, because nobody ever paid attention to the previous capacity bar and it was essentially useless. And to wrap this all up, we talk about the massive cheater problem. They apologized again for the delay and explained that with the insane growth came an influx in cheaters, and that has taken some serious effort to combat. But with the new systems in place, they said the volume of players that use cheats have been reduced by 25% overall, and the volume of malicious extreme cheaters has been reduced by 50%. So yes, it's a problem, and yes, they are making strides towards fixing it. Hang in there, everyone. Well, that is everything you need to know at this point. I'm super scared because we had an insane amount of rain dumped here last night, and we're going into a high windstorm that will likely take out our power. I know, perfect time leading up to the 24-hour test server, right? So I might be playing a lot of Battlegrounds in a Starbucks somewhere tonight. We'll see. That's it, guys. As always, thanks a million for watching, and until the next video, I'll see you on the Battlegrounds.